What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome to episode number 14 of the Marvel Rewatch. I think that's it. Yes. Guardians was 10. Avengers 2 was 11. Ant-Man was 12. So was 13. Yep, number 14. Doctor Strange. Now, I haven't watched this movie since the theaters, and I actually legitimately enjoyed Doctor Strange the first time around. And seeing it again, I still enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. Visually, it's the most unique of the Marvel films. Like, the visuals are out-fucking-standing. It's a trippy-ass, crazy-looking movie. It's like Inception on LSD, and it looks incredible. The visuals are what sells me on this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is pretty good, too. He's basically an even douchier version of Tony Stark, who has to learn to redeem himself. He's a selfish prick. Although Tony Stark was still a lot more likable than Stephen Strange was. I think that's why they paired him off in Infinity War, because finally they had somebody who was just as egotistical as Tony Stark, if not more. Yeah, because Doctor Strange, start out of this movie, he is the biggest egomaniac, the biggest piece of shit, the most unlikable douchebag you can imagine. Like, this dude has an ego unlike anything I've seen in a long time. Which is why it makes his character arc that more effective, because he's such an asshole. Like, he's level 10 level of douchebag. I mean, he still saves people, but he's just a prick about it. He doesn't really care for lives. He's just all in it for the glory. He still saves people, which is a good thing, but he is just full-blown asshole. So, him being full-blown asshole, he's, like, looking for surgeries to do while he's driving. He looks at his phone. Then we proceed to get, like, the worst car crash I think I'd ever seen. Like, this car crash is so over the top. He falls for, like, 20 minutes. It's actually kind of comedic how violent the car crash gets. Then he injures his hands, and so he can no longer perform surgeries. His whole thing's like, what did you do to me? Like, he can no longer perform surgeries with his hands. He crushed them. He broke them. And he tries all sorts of different forms of therapy. He can't even write his name. So he's pretty much broken. So then he goes to Kathmandu, and then he goes to meet the Ancient One. And I know there was some outrage about the Ancient One because it wasn't, I forget the original ethnicity of the Ancient One, but the only reason they didn't do that was because of China or whatever. I can't quite remember why they recast the Ancient One. I think it had something to do with they didn't want to affect the box office in China or whatever. Something along the lines of that. But anyways, where was I at? Oh yeah, Doctor Strange. So he goes there, meets the Ancient One, meets his one dude who's kind of an ally, meets Wong and all that. And then he eventually learns to become the Sorcerer Supreme, do battle with Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Caecilius. I can never remember this guy's name. They say it every time, but it's always one that's just tough to remember. Caecilius? Mads Mikkelsen. Hannibal. Dr. Hannibal Lecter. That's the villain. Lei Shi from... See, I can remember those. Caecilius. I think I got it right somewhere, but like every time I always forget this dude's name. Who's trying to summon an interdimensional demon known as Dormammu, who's just big CGI face-looking monster who at the end of the movie, Doctor Strange goes in a time loop to just annoy for all eternity. I loved it. I thought that was great. I don't know what it is about this movie that it doesn't really like... I wouldn't put it at the top of the MCU, but I definitely think it's a solid film. I'm like, what is it about this movie? It's like, by the time I'm done with it, like, I enjoy the ride, but like, after the fact, I don't go back and rewatch it all that much, even though I like it. I think the visuals are what stands out most of all in this movie. Very trippy. They got Scott Derrickson, who's a notable horror director who directed Sinister, to make this movie. And I think with a horror director, you need that, very bizarre, kooky vision to really bring the craziness of this film to life. They really nailed it, and I think Doctor Strange was a very interesting character. Yeah, it's true, his arc feels very similar to Iron Man, and the villain himself, I mean, he's made better simply because it is Mads Mikkelsen, but he's not the best villain you can imagine. He's not fully compelling or anything like that. I still think he, does the lines well because he's Mads Mikkelsen. So he's not the worst MCU villain, but the only thing about him is you're just not going to fully remember him as this all-time great villain. Because I don't know what it is. It's just, he seems kind of simple. We also get some things set up for the next phase of Marvel movies. We got Doctor Strange's, I guess, mentor, if you will, outside of the Ancient One, who was on his side, who then, by the end of the film, becomes kind of a villain that they're going to set up for later on. I think his name is Mordo. Then you got Wong, who's his buddy. Then we kind of find out that the Time Stone is an Infinity Stone that the Sorcerer Supreme, all of them use. He gets his little cloak and we get some good action sequences. But Strange is kind of different. Like, he doesn't want to kill people, versus like the other Avengers who seem to kill people like without any real remorse. It feels like. I mean, you know, all of them are going through and like killing all sorts of different people. I think the only one who hasn't killed anyone is Spider-Man at this point, because every Avenger kills somebody. And Doctor Strange is immediately angry about this. He did not want anything to do. He's like, he was brought in to save people. He wasn't meant to kill people. Although, like, the Ancient One's like, yeah, that's for your ego. Because Doctor Strange, he's like, no, I took a life. It's wrong. I can't kill people. Well, it's not right. And I respect that about his character. And he does go through a legitimate arc. He does do things for better. He does become a better person, ultimately. But, man, is he an asshole early on. So, it goes to show you that, and I actually think I like Doctor Strange better in Infinity War than I do in this one, but I still like him in this movie, because that's the good thing about his character. He starts out in a bad place, and he progresses. Character development, like, he clearly developed. It's not like when Thor did it, because Thor did, like, the arrogant prick, it's a better person, within 3 days. Doctor Strange, it takes a considerable amount of time, and this is what was missing in the first Thor movie, when Thor had to develop, because Thor was just less than 3 days. He's, like, you know, completely changed. Doctor Strange, it's a long progression of time, and even then, when he goes initially to the, Kathmandu to change himself and fix himself up, he's really hesitant about it. He's still an arrogant prick about it. It takes him a long time before he gets better, and then ultimately by the end of the film, he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's meant to protect the Sanctum in New York. And then we get a mid-credit sequence that sets up Thor Ragnarok, and then we get another sequence afterwards that sets up the villain for the next movie, who's taking away people's magic and getting rid of all the sorcerers, and so on and so forth. So yes, I enjoy Doctor Strange. The ending is actually a little bit creative. It just has Strange using the time stone in a time loop to just consistently say, Dormammu, I have come to bargain. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. He says it like 20 times, and it's really funny, and Dormammu just gets super annoyed with it, because he's like, I can't take it anymore. And, that's pretty much it for him. I really like that aspect of it. So yeah, Doctor Strange is a pretty solid MCU film. Where would I rank it? It's so far it's my second film in Phase 3. It's better than a lot of the films in Phase 2. Doctor Strange is just a solid all-around MCU film. It's not, I wouldn't call it game-changing outside of some of the creative visuals, but other than that, you know, there's still a good character arc for Strange. The villain's not fully compelling, even though it's Mads Mikkelsen, which is unfortunate. The Ancient One is kind of there. Like, some of the comedy is funny. I love the cloak that he has. Like, his cloak is awesome. Like, his cloak is just, like, beating the shit out of people. Like, that's an awesome cloak. I wish my clothes would do that. And I think it's pretty cool. There's some funny stuff with him. Yeah, so then you get his girlfriend is Rachel McAdams. She's just kind of there. Well, I wouldn't really say full girlfriend, kind of somewhat, sort of there. He's still too big of like an asshole, but you know, they have a good to decent chemistry. But yeah, so Doctor Strange, what are your thoughts on it down below? I like it. I think it's pretty solid. Some good stuff in here, some impressive visuals. Overall, I say it's definitely worth checking out. So far, it's number 2 in terms of Phase 3 of my rewatching, with this one and Civil War. So it's right behind Civil War. So take it for what it's worth. Anyways, I'm going to let y'all go. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Comment, like, subscribe. Come back tomorrow as we talk about a film I haven't seen since the theater, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I actually did do a review on that back in 2017. So when I go to that review, I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check that out to get my initial thoughts on the movie upon seeing it. Maybe my opinions changed. Maybe I like the movie a little bit more now than I did back then. So, yep. Thanks so much for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye then.